Hello again, it's Vaughn at Spirit of Health, going on our fasting journey here, now talking about fast number 6. I call it the Desert Father Fast. Again, we're going 1 through 11 of what I consider the easiest, working into what is probably the most challenging fast, which would be at the end, number 11. But this is called the Desert Father Fast, and that's kind of an interesting name. I did a video on just hopefully encouraging us by the ancient wisdom of the Desert Fathers. And these were men and women who lived out in the desert and in the wilderness to live going after Christ and to live a biblical lifestyle and to not live in the cities that were starting to get turned over to lust of the flesh and carnal desires and just different things that can happen when you live in large communities of people in cities and things like that. So the Desert Fathers basically ate very little. They ate, we could call it manna, but it was bread. And in general, the Desert Fathers ate bread one time in the evening each day. They sustained themselves on very, very, very little food. So I just want to give you some ideas. These are the ancient monks, what we call them the Desert Fathers. It's also what the Israelites would have lived on, right? In the desert, when they were wandering for 40 years, and the manna that came from heaven, it's what Ezekiel fasted on. And I'm going to read Ezekiel just because it's just interesting. This is very biblical, and it's what the Desert Fathers did, so that's why I wanted to include it. In Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 9, it says, "Also take for yourself wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt, put them into a vessel, and make bread of them for yourself. During the number of days that you lie on your side, 390 days you shall eat it. And your food which you eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time you shall eat it. You shall also drink water by measure, 1/6 of a hin. From time to time you shall drink." So if you do the math on that, I don't know it exactly, but I think it's about maybe a half a loaf of bread a day total that he ate, and about a quart of water for 390 days. That's what Ezekiel did, because the Lord asked him to. So, all right, so I just want to talk a little bit more about kind of the Desert Fathers. It was a fasted lifestyle. It wasn't, I don't know if it was so much about the bread, although obviously it's very biblical. The Israelites in the desert, Ezekiel, John the Baptist, locusts and honey. So different people obviously fasted in different ways. But it was more just about living a fasted lifestyle, not focusing on food, not focusing on gluttony, not focusing on lust of the flesh. It was basically a way for them to sustain themselves with by eating and getting basic nourishment, but staying in the spirit, not focusing on food, not making that a big part of what's important to them in their life, which oftentimes in our culture, in our world today, we really make food something, such a focus that takes so much of our time and effort and thought process, and it's so much of our pleasure in life. And again, I'm just referring to the Desert Fathers that, that wasn't their main focus. And I actually quoted them a little bit, there's one called Saint Anthony, and he was considered one of the greatest Desert Fathers. So just maybe if this is something you want to try, I want to encourage you to some of the things he said. He said, he did not pester his parents for food of various and luxurious kinds, nor did he seek the pleasures associated with food, but with merely the things he found before him he was satisfied, and he looked for nothing more. This is a book called Anathesius, The Life of Antony and the Letter of Marcellinus, page 31. All right. He ate once daily after sunset, but there were times when he received food every second and frequently even every fourth day. His food was bread and salt, and for drinking he took only water. There is no reason to even speak of meat and wine, when indeed such thing was not found among other zealous men. So that's what he ate, bread and salt. And he ate it once a day after sunset. Page 65 of the same book. He ate by himself, of course, according to his body's need, yet often with the brothers as well, doing this out of respect for them. He used to say we ought to devote all our time to the soul instead of the body, so that it would not be dragged down by bodily pleasures, but rather that the body might be subservient to the soul. So he would entertain and eat, with friends and when people came over, but in general, this was his fasted type of a lifestyle. So who will benefit? This is definitely a more advanced fast. It's not for a beginner. If somebody wants something very simple that sustains life, there's Ezekiel bread on the market, and it's based off of Ezekiel in the Bible right here. And it has nutrition in it. And you can live on bread and water. It's kind of the thing that they'd always say would be in prisons, and prisoners would just live on bread and water. It'd be a very, very, very simple plan and a way to do this. So that's the advantages. It's very simple. You're not distracted on trying to figure out what to eat every day. It's basically like a 24-hour fast every day if you're just eating bread, once at night after dinner. And again, you wouldn't have to do it exactly that way, but that's traditionally how the Desert Fathers did it. Disadvantages. It's hard to find quality bread today. It really is. A lot of people have problems with digestion. People have problems with gluten. People have food allergies. So this is certainly not for everybody. And people who are intolerant to certain grains and breads, you probably don't want to do this. If you have major issues with candida, yeast, fungus, or other infectious issues, the bread can be problematic. So again, this is only going to be for certain people that's like, wow, I could do that. I could eat a few slices of bread every night and fast and go after Jesus, and it might give me enough fuel to sustain my fast. That's why I put it out here, just because, like I said, it's biblical. The Desert Fathers did it, and it might make sense for you. So what to eat? Bread. Ancient grain bread. Ezekiel bread's probably the most commonly known. It should be sprouted ancient grain bread based off the Bible. Don't just eat bad bread. That could be bad news. You got to be really smart about it. Ezekiel ate equivalent about 10 ounces of bread a day if you want to use that as a guideline. Probably half a loaf a day would be the absolute max. And they usually eat their bread after sunset. To clarify, you're not just eating bread all day long. You're not adding peanut butter and jelly to your bread. This isn't about how fun and tasty you can make your bread. I probably shouldn't need to say that, but in today's world, people are used to making everything the way they like it, even when they're fasting. So I just felt like I needed to make that point of clarification. Beverages, water only. Again, warm or hot water sipped during the day would be great. Drink when thirsty as needed, but don't force water. What to avoid? Everything else. This is just the Desert Fathers fast, a bread fast. Length of fast. The Desert Fathers did this their entire life. They weren't focused on food. So you have to decide what would make sense for you. And I wrote in here, I don't know if anyone would do this for 390 days like Ezekiel unless you directly heard it as a command from the Lord. But who knows? You might be able to do this for 10 days, 21 days, 40 days, and just eat a little bit of bread every night after sunset. Hot body or cold body, it'll work for either. It's a very restrictive type of diet. It might not seem like enough food for somebody who's cold or weak and has weak digestion. I do have the warm cooked food fast, the Kitchery fast for those people. If you're stronger, you have strong digestion, you want to lose weight, you want to have energy and feel better and feel lighter and cleaner by eating a minimal amount of food. It's going to help reset blood sugars. It'd be great for actually various health conditions. Eating this minimally once a day would actually be amazing for a lot of different health conditions. Food for thought. We've heard a lot of bad things lately about bread and grains. It's true. I think the problem, more than the food itself, is poor health. It's certainly the processing of our food, but also excessive consumption of different foods. Bread clearly has been a staple of food throughout human history in almost every culture. I don't think bread is the bad guy. However, the poor health of many people has made bread problematic. Our family, personally, we don't eat bread for a lot of these reasons. And we have noticed problems when we try to bring it back in. So like I said, it's not necessarily for everyone. Only try it if you feel like you can handle it. But feel free to switch it up if you don't feel like it's working for you. But I know there's people out there, based on the inspiration of the Bible and the Desert Fathers, and for simplicity's sake, this might just work perfectly for. So if that's for you, I encourage you to give it a try. God bless.